Welcome to Cosmic Chosen. Chosen One, this message will not make sense to the average person, but you're not average. That deep part of you that always sensed you were different, watched, guided, it's been right all along. Your cat is not just a pet. It's a divine instrument. Look again. The way it stares into nothing. The way it suddenly runs, pauses, or hides. The way it chooses to sit beside you when you feel weak or unsettled. That's not coincidence. That's communication. That's spiritual alignment. Your cat hears things, sees things, and feels shifts that are invisible to the human eye. And lately it's been getting louder. Because something is coming. Something the cosmos has long kept track of. There were those who tried to destroy you. They laughed behind your back, lied with clean hands, and thought karma had forgotten. But karma is not forgetful, it's patient. And now, your spiritual warning system is activating. That cat, your messenger, has been picking up on the stirrings, energetic shifts, divine responses, the silent opening of long-locked gates in the spirit realm. The noise it's making, the unusual behavior, it's a spiritual siren, signaling that your justice, your moment, and your divine protection are in motion. Chosen One, don't ignore the signs. Watch, listen, align. Even the animals know. You were never alone. And now, your moment is near. Fact. According to behavioral psychology research, those who lie, manipulate, or undermine others often underestimate the long-term effects because they see quiet as weakness rather than intelligence. They fail to see that you are more than simply the underdog. The storm that was subtly brewing is you. Karma is now bringing a microphone and popcorn to a front row seat. Prepare yourself because what follows will not be subtle, and it will most certainly not be private. Let's discuss why you are going to blossom and choke on the petals while being watched by the same individuals who attempted to bury you. First of all, they made fun of the seed before it developed into a forest. Since all they could see was soil, they made fun of the seed before it turned into a forest. They smiled as they saw your struggle, your quiet, and your failures. You were forgotten, buried, and unimportant to them. They saw your quiet times as a sign of failure. They didn't realize, however, that the dirt wasn't your demise. It was the setting you were in. Your roots were sprouting there. You see, people are eager to criticize things they don't fully comprehend. They just perceive the halt, not the process. The late nights, the self-doubt you battled, and the times you had to start again with confidence are not visible to them. They didn't see you till you were still learning and nothing seemed to be working. They also determined that your tale was done. They were mistaken. You were developing while they were chatting. You were in the process of evolving into something that couldn't even be described yet, while others were occupied with talking about you as if you were finished. It's not always loud to grow. Not every success sends a message. Soil, effort, and stillness may be the first steps. However, it doesn't request permission when it makes its appearance. It has to be addressed. The individuals who made fun of you will now have to traverse the forest that they said would never develop. They won't be able to stop it or spin it, and they'll have to acknowledge, whether out or in private, that they miscalculated you and that their words didn't hold up over time. In front of them, the evidence will be unquestionable, unconcerned, and firmly established. Karma works like this. It discloses rather than merely repays. Not for retaliation, but for balance. It enables people to understand how wrong they were in the most obvious manner. They were truly seeing your commencement, even if they believed they were watching your demise. They just were unaware that seeds first seemed to be a sign of failure. Second, your wounds turned into holy blueprints. Your wounds turned into holy blueprints. Detailed maps of all you had to endure, outgrow, and rebuild from, not simply recollections of suffering. Every disappointment, betrayal, and breakdown that almost caused you to quit up wasn't arbitrary. They were molding you, teaching you things about yourself that no one in your comfort zone could ever tell you. You learned how to use your own strength, not simply how to be harmed. When things went ugly, you discovered who was genuine, and more significantly, who vanished when you needed them most. If things had remained pleasant, you never would have seen the patterns that those folks displayed because of that anguish. Yes, it did break you in some ways. Those breaks, however, made you conscious rather than weak. The world advises you to conceal your scars as if they were defects, and that you need to feel guilty about them. The most honest aspects of you, however, are those scars. You no longer need to be flawless or unharmed. They say, "I've been through hell, and I came back with receipts." You deserve to live. You fully paid for your knowledge. And now you are gaining understanding that most others do not have from those same wounds that previously seemed to be ends. Your wounds taught you things the outside world couldn't, which is why you now walk differently, talk more deliberately, trust more cautiously, and guard your peace like it's gold. Hard lessons and life experiences are the blueprint. It is impossible for anybody to imitate or replicate. The individuals who left those wounds will soon realize how strong they really made you when karma takes its course. They attempted to break someone who was meant to rise, not because they wanted to. You are not ruined by your scars. You were redesigned. You now move with calm force, clarity, and purpose. What frightens them is that, while they believed they were harming you, all they did was contribute to the creation of the strongest version of you. Thirdly, they weren't adversaries. They served as mentors without pay. They were not adversaries. They served as mentors without pay. They'll never comprehend that aspect. They believed they were bringing you down, but in reality, they were making you sharper. They were teaching you clarity, resiliency, and strategy each time they misled, deceived, undervalued, or attempted to shatter you. You studied them, not simply made it through them. You saw their movements, their manipulation, and their change of tactics when things didn't go their way. They also trained you precisely how not to move and who not to be without you ever realizing it. Because you didn't fight back the manner they anticipated, they assumed you were weak. You weren't weak, however. You were watching. You weren't responding. You were listening. And throughout that quiet, you were gathering knowledge that today forms the basis of your life. Unbeknownst to you, they sharpened you. Unpaid mentors do just that. They don't mean well when they lead you. Through their errors, their hatred, their deeds, and their teachings, they lead you. There is no other way you could have obtained them. Ironically, they tried to break you, but instead they made you better. That's the unexpected turn of events. They unintentionally became the catalyst that propelled you farther into purpose because they were so preoccupied with attempting to be the antagonist in your tale. You wouldn't be as sharp as you are today if it weren't for the pressure, the fire, and the continuous testing. So even if they don't receive credit, they are addressed. You become adept at following your gut. You discovered how to leave without requiring resolution. You discovered how to quit having to explain yourself to those who are determined to misunderstand you. Above all, you discovered that survival is more than just surviving. On the other side, it's about becoming something. They gave you weapons, believing them to be wounds, but you upgraded your thoughts, your energy, and your path with each one. Karma is now taking over, and they will see that they were never the cause of your demise. They were the practice round. You're prepared for the real deal, too. Fourth, your ascent will have to be recounted by the same voices that deceived. Karma has a sense of humor and enjoys irony. So the same tongues that lied will have to tell the story of your ascent, not because you need their approval. The individuals who formerly misrepresented you, disseminated inaccurate information, and ensured that others saw you negatively will now be forced to face the exact thing they attempted to destroy: your power. They weren't only dishonest. They attempted to change who you are. They boldly told people what you would never become, introduced doubt where there was truth, and manufactured drama where none existed. Some of them even used disparaging you to establish their own prominence. They were unaware, however, that reality has its own timetable. It waits patiently and doesn't knock softly until it gets there. It is evident, unmistakable, and loud. Karma does more than merely make amends. The script is flipped. It turns the people who formerly called you a failure become unwelcome representatives of your accomplishment. Weren't you the one who said they'd never make it? Those same people are now being questioned, and they're being made to see you shine in places they thought you would never go into. Even worse, they must discuss it, act as if they were always convinced. They choke on the words they never imagined saying. But retaliation isn't the point here. It has to do with alignment, because they might have left feeling justified if they had remained silent. Instead, life provides them with microphones and front row seats. They now have to use words they never intended to use to retract every falsehood they have ever said. Karma's interpretation of justice is characterized by terms like successful, respected, and unstoppable, making them take part in your ascent rather than only allowing them to see it. They will tell the story of the comeback they vowed never to have through clenched mouths and fake grins. Additionally, each sentence will remind them that they never had the last say. Fifth, they believed your delay to be denial. It was a heavenly calculation. Your delay was seen as rejection by them. Maybe nothing at all was in store for you since things weren't occurring on their time frame. Your peaceful seasons were mistaken for dead ends by them. They saw your patience as failure and your waiting as a loss. They were unaware that you weren't stranded. They were positioning you strategically. People like using speed as a metric for success. They believe that you've lost your opportunity if you don't exhibit results right away. However, divine timing is unaffected by external expectations or public pressure. It operates silently in layers and, above all, with purpose. You were getting ready to influence generations, while they were hurrying to impress. Being still is a sign of calibration, not weakness. You were sitting with the truth while others were running about looking for approval. Your intellect was being rebuilt, your heart was being healed, your instincts were being sharpened, and you were learning and unlearning. When the time comes, that type of labor makes you dangerous, but it doesn't become viral. They believed that you were being excluded, but in reality, you were being prepared for access that they would never be able to have. They didn't see any movement, so they chuckled. However, the foundation was being laid, the roots were expanding, and divine timing was bringing you to a point where no amount of connections or influence could match the entry. It's loud, obvious, and indisputable that your season is coming. Additionally, many who believed you missed your time are now acknowledging that you are it. Your ascent is more than simply achievement. It's a declaration. This serves as a reminder that denial is not the same as delay. It's heavenly preparation for an unavoidable triumph of sorts. It was never intended to disprove them. It was about waiting for the appropriate moment to confirm everything. Your victory was always intended to be noticed, but some victories are supposed to remain silent. Sixth, you were the chessboard and they were the checkers. While you were turning onto the chessboard, they played checkers. They adopted a short-term approach, believing that a few cunning moves would bring you down. Low-level manipulation, swift chatter, and quick punches. They played the game. Superficial strategies meant to elicit responses rather than outcomes. However, you were perfecting stillness while others were creating noise. You were creating something far larger than they could possibly comprehend. While they were planning their next little step, you weren't only playing more cleverly. You turned into the board. You gained knowledge of how the whole system works. You saw the dynamics of power, the covert intentions, and the true game that lay behind the theater. And you began planning forward 10 steps ahead of time, rather than impulsively responding to every provocation. You began to plan like a king or queen and quit haggling with pawns. They were afraid of it. Not only have you grown, but you have also changed your viewpoint. Because they were unaware of this. You govern the area when you take on the role of the chessboard. You're not a player anymore who wants to win. Everyone else is moving on the ground. That is you. You're no longer in the game with them, so their small-time plans don't disturb you. You're keeping an eye on things from above and directing them without having to struggle. It's not conceited. Elevation is that. Your plan was sharpened by what they believed would break you. Their strategies were short-term, but your metamorphosis was long-lasting. They believed you were still, but in reality, you were outgrowing everyone. Their drama now seems insignificant. Since they're still playing checkers, their movements seem desperate, quick, careless, and superficial, while you've perfected intricacy, forethought, and purpose. The crazy aspect is that winning is no longer necessary. The winner is you. You are the structure, the momentum, and the platform. And they're moving on a board that you now own, one that they never constructed, whether they realize it or not. The seventh is that the same people who attempted to bury you are now burying themselves. The same people who attempted to bury you are now burying themselves. They believed they were being cunning, working covertly and secretly. The backstabbing, the sabotage, the phony support, and the murmurs. They believed that nobody would ever find out. Energy, however, never goes away. It exposes, multiplies, and returns. Karma also doesn't knock in a courteous manner. It comes with receipts in tow like a hurricane. They weren't only trying to hurt you. They worked hard at it. Deliberate actions and recurrent strikes. They continued after one betrayal. They intensified their efforts. Additionally, they were fixated on your dissent while you were attempting to maintain your composure and walk with dignity. They were unaware that burying someone who is in line with truth, purpose, and resilience not only fails, but also causes a reversal. Your name is now coated with dirt from the same hands that flung it. They couldn't stop themselves, not because you reacted. The deception, the deceit, the silent jealousy. Like pressure behind a dam, it all accumulated. And it's not subtle when that dam cracks. It's not hygienic. It is unavoidably noisy and untidy. That is the way karma works. It addresses more than simply the act. It reveals the intention. Those who used to put in extra hours to make you appear bad are now struggling to keep their masks on. Furthermore, the decline is not being placed covertly. It's open to the public. They are being exposed by the same audience that they attempted to use against you. It's because the truth must be seen, not because you wanted it. Retaliation is not necessary for karma. Exposure is used. Additionally, there is no edit option or control over who may see the tape after it begins to play back. They are now starting to unravel what they intended for your ending. They didn't just bury the incorrect person. In the process, they buried themselves. What about the show? It's just the beginning. Eighthly, they attempted to flee the storm that was you. They attempted to escape the storm that was you. They believed they could misrepresent your name, change your personality, and go unpunished. They believed their actions would have no repercussions, no echo, and no weight. Like puppeteers, they tried to manipulate how other people saw you by making up tales, sowing doubts, and laughing behind closed doors. However, those who make fun of the sky are not warned by storms. They just show up. How about you? You never stop coming. They believed that you were the easy target, the silent one who wouldn't defend yourself, and the victim in their play. However, you were never only a spectator. You were change in motion. They failed to see the true power that was growing within of you while they were occupied with playing God with your tail. You weren't planning retaliation. You were evolving into something they couldn't even foresee or control. They gaslight their way through the harm they inflicted, fled from responsibility, and concealed themselves behind false grins. But storms don't miss, and truth never dies. Now the thunder is your voice, unmistakable, resounding in every area they attempted to control. What about the lightning? It's intimate. Their fictitious feeling of power is shaken by the disclosure, the justice, and the unexpected shock. It wasn't necessary to yell, plead, or coerce your way into acceptance. You just had to become something they didn't anticipate. Indisputable. Their falsehoods are now overshadowed by your presence, your development, tranquility, and fortitude. The phony image they attempted to create in your place is collapsing. Devastation is not the goal of this storm. It's time to face up, to bring everything back into equilibrium, not to punish. Everyone will realize who was really hazardous the whole time, the one they underestimated, the person they believed to be quiet, and the person who was the storm the entire time, while they rushed to revise their portion. The ninth is that they were fueled by fabricated stories. They will now choke on the truth. They were nourished by lies. They will now choke on the truth. They treated them like facts after fabricating whole tales out of presumptions, jealousy, and insecurity. They weren't only dishonest. They vowed to tell the lie, repeated it, embellished it, and confidently spread it. They painted you as less than broken, or a joke, by using your name as money in talks you weren't invited to. And because the falsehood was louder than your silence, people believed it, not because it was real. Since the illusion gave them power, they felt at ease in it. It shrank you while making them feel large. They created echo chambers of illusion by surrounding themselves with individuals who shared their interpretation of events. However, they failed to remember that truth is not frightened. It isn't competitive. It waits. Furthermore, it doesn't request permission when it appears. It has to be addressed. And now the truth is coming to light. It's noisy. It's uncooked. There is no denying it. Furthermore, it doesn't give a damn about who is uncomfortable. Since it was never solid in the first place, everything they based on lies is beginning to fall apart. People are starting to notice. The narrative no longer makes sense. The energy doesn't fit the story, and the mask is falling off. And as the truth begins to emerge, it doesn't just knock. It knocks down doors. The same individuals who used to profit from spreading false information about you will now have to bear the consequences of their actions. They will have to see everything they denied come to light. Truth inherently rises like fire, justice, and karma, not because you're attempting to disprove them. They had been consuming falsehood for so long that they had forgotten what reality tasted like. And it's bitter now. It's open to the public. And it's slowly but definitely suffocating them. Because lies always perish at the hands of truth, regardless of how long they persist. And it's hardly a quiet death. There's a roar. 10th, they thought you were giving up when you didn't say anything. They thought you were giving up when you didn't speak. I assumed you had nothing to say, or worse, nothing left, since you didn't respond, submit receipts, or give an explanation. However, you weren't weak by remaining silent. It was an observation. It was self-control. It was a plan. You were saving your energy and improving your concentration, while others were creating drama and acting for attention. You weren't hiding. You were getting ready. They thought your silence was a sign of defeat, but it was really the stillness before something they weren't prepared for. You decided against wasting your breath on those who are determined to misunderstand you. You were aware that disagreeing with them would just make you feel worse than you already were. So you rebuilt rather than reacted. You did all of your labor healing and moving in quiet. Because, particularly while your transition is still ongoing, not everything requires an audience. Now, however, that quiet is giving way to sound. Not the sound of defense or justification. The impact sound. Your victory's sound speaks for you. The noise of the rooms where you are being discussed. They claimed you'd never make it to those rooms. The same walls that previously defamed your reputation will tremble with the reverberation of your return, and they will clearly hear it. They didn't anticipate your capacity to endure the commotion. They desired a response. Rather, they provided you with inspiration. They were hoping you would fold. You leveled up instead. Additionally, the version of you that they believed they had destroyed is no longer there. The new one is stronger, quieter, wiser, and less concerned about demonstrating anything. Let them speak. Allow them to recite the ancient tales. Because what awaits you won't only stop them from lying, it will totally drown them out. You won't have to utter a word when it occurs. Your findings will speak louder than their defamatory remarks ever could. 11th, they saw you go hungry. They'll watch you eat now. They saw you go hungry. They'll watch you eat now. Not behind closed doors. Not in silence. Not in a secret place where they can act as if it never occurred. No, we're setting this table out in the open. Exactly where they smiled at your struggle, where they gossiped, and where they counted you out. The moment was always intended to be observed, not because you were attempting to make it seem more pleasant. They were aware of your deficiency. They witnessed it, and they murmured rather than provide assistance. Rather of providing assistance, they observed from afar, amused by your hunger. In the hopes that your dry season would break you, Some even fueled the lack by denying chances and sowing doubt. They didn't think you would make it through it, much less overcome it. However, you did. They failed to see that every time you felt left out, every time you had to make something out of nothing, and every time you went without, it was setting you up for overflow. It was teaching you how to manage plenty without being conceited, and how to bear blessings with humility. You become intelligent because you were hungry. You were prepared by your waiting. Now, the feast is about more than simply satisfaction. It has to do with perspective and fulfillment. This isn't retaliation. It is a prophecy. It's alignment. It is the fulfillment of a promise that never required their consent. When you are being served, the same lips who spoke while you were hungry will now stop talking. Because it's more than simply your food at this time. They want to check who is now feeding you. The table isn't just full either. It is bursting at the seams. Not for show or pride, but to demonstrate that being lacking was just a chapter in your life and never who you were. People who formerly believed that your struggle defined you are now acknowledging that it merely made you more polished. You were never without anything. You were only set up for a feast that they will be forced to attend. They attempted to end a call at number 12. They attempted to end a call, attempted to discredit you, distort your story, and remove you from the public eye as if you were a fad they might vote off. They failed to see, however, that this was not a popularity battle. It had a purpose. Permission is not required for purpose. It certainly doesn't yield to viewpoints, nor does it depend on public favor. They treated you as if your value rested on their approval, as if you were a project they might cancel. They planned, whispered, unfollowed, and excluded in the hopes that it would make you shudder and shrink. They believed you would vanish if they diverted their focus. Chosen ones, however, never fade. They grow silently. Applause was never your purpose. You came here to do an assignment, and noise doesn't cancel assignments. They overlook the fact that callings are ingrained in something more profound than social standing. No human lips can erase anything written by a higher hand, since they are inscribed in heavenly ink, which is unchangeable and unshakable. Their consent did not result in your appearance. It was alignment's effect. You weren't coerced into this. They put you there. And there was protection at that location. They became cold, but you didn't stop. Because you weren't driven by others, you continued to move even after the room was quiet. Your belief gave you strength. As if they could vote you off the stage they didn't construct, they believed your calling was up for question. Ironically, however, you were getting ready for a platform that none of them anticipated while they were busy attempting to cancel you. The same people who attempted to stop you will now have to see your task grow. Not because you retaliated, but rather because divine timing isn't influenced by trivialities. They attempted to remove the previously sealed material. Purpose, however, does not panic. It simply happens. Stronger, louder, and with a spotlight that no hand can turn off. Your accomplishment will now need to be explained by the same individuals who said you wouldn't succeed. Not in private, not in passing, but in front of the same people they attempted to discredit you. And that's what they didn't anticipate. They weren't just questioning you. They were actively influencing stories, ensuring that your name was met with low expectations, murmurs, and sidelong glances. Before you had a chance to prove anything, they wanted others to mistake you for failure. And it worked for a while. It gave them a sense of power to act as gatekeepers and be the person people trusted about you. So they used your name as a warning label. Don't trust them. They're not serious. They'll never get far. And because confidence, even in lies, is persuasive, the people they warned didn't question it. That was their performance's power. However, when the truth comes to light, performances don't hold up well. Now you're winning in front of the same crowd they poisoned, observing you surpass every classification, restriction, and low bar they impose on you. And they're perplexed because the reality they're seeing doesn't align with the version of you they were sold. Karma enters the space that exists between the truth and the lie. The worst part is yet to come. They can no longer be saved by silence. People will ask, weren't you the one who said they'd never do anything? And they will have to either eat the truth raw or lie again, further exposing themselves. Because there is no need for a defense when the truth is revealed. It demands accountability and speaks for itself. It's more than just a victory for you. It contradicts every untrue statement they made. You don't need to return the clap. You are not required to drag them. They were already given the microphone by life. In front of the same throng that they attempted to turn against you, they are now perspiring. That isn't retaliation. Divine reversal, that is. Number 13. The same individuals who warned others you'd never make it will have to justify your achievement. Your accomplishment will now need to be explained by the same individuals who said you wouldn't succeed. And not softly, not inside discussions, not in clever, backpedaling group chats, but straight in front of the same mob they poisoned against you. The same ones they warned about you, gossiped to, rallied behind their fears. Now those folks are watching you win loudly, openly, unashamedly. They had the screenplay written. You were meant to remain tiny. You were intended to fall apart. They circulated your name like a cautionary tale, not understanding they were really laying the seed for your ascension. They doubted you more than that. They promoted your failure, made whole careers out of being the one who saw right through you. However, what they saw was not reality. It was an outgrowth of their own boundaries. They now have to explain your breakthrough, which is a storyline twist they did not anticipate. The story they sold is disintegrating in real time, which is why it hurts. You are rising in front of the same people they attempted to blind, despite their claims that you weren't made for success. The best thing was that you were spared from having to defend, expose, or counterattack. You just become indisputable. They attempted to keep you out of some rooms, but you let your development speak. Now, people are asking questions. They want to know why someone with so much light was seen as a danger, why you were questioned, and why you were fired. And whether they acknowledge it or not, the answer is control, envy, and a fear of your potential. Furthermore, no spin is powerful enough to disguise the potential that is presently emerging. Allow them to struggle for justifications. Allow them to struggle through the awkwardness of seeing the person they counted out turn into the one that everyone is observing. The evidence they vowed never to exist is your success. Additionally, it's making them confront the reality they attempted to hide from the public. Number 14. Karma kicks down doors rather than knocking. Karma kicks down doors instead of knocking. It doesn't wait patiently for a second opportunity or an invitation. When it does, it smashes through all justifications, deceptions, and attempts to avoid responsibility. It also doesn't come with nothing. Receipts are brought. The indisputable evidence of any wrongdoing, covert treachery, and thoughtless words would fade into the background. Karma makes an unavoidable, loud, and audacious appearance. For people who have been mistreated, karma is really terrible not only because it brings justice, but also because it makes them face the consequences. Mirrors don't behave well. They don't cushion the blow or cover up imperfections. They reveal the unvarnished reality. All of a sudden, those who devote so much of their energy to blaming others for their shortcomings have to look in the mirror and face their own image. No more blame, no more diversions, just an unmistakable, direct meeting with oneself. It's their reckoning time. Their masks of ignorance, innocence, and confidence come off. Karma is not a spectator. Thus, they cannot avoid the repercussions. It combines the roles of judge, referee, and celebrity. It exposes their acts to the public and flips their secrets. The roar of reality breaks the stillness they longed for. Even while the coming of karma seems harsh, it's often the only way for someone to develop, evolve, and fully comprehend the consequences of their actions is to confront oneself without pretense or justification. They try to lock the doors they kick down, but they are unable to do so. These are doors to their own conscience. Karma is ultimately not about punishment for the sake of punishment. It has to do with equilibrium. It's about ensuring that what was overlooked is ultimately handled and that what was done in secret is revealed. It's not only a win for you when karma knocks down your adversary's doors. They have the opportunity to see the reality that they have been working so hard to conceal. No one can avoid or control the precision with which the drama of karma plays out in the great theater of life. It's not hurried or postponed. It is willful, stubborn, and eventually inevitable. The ability of the chosen one to rise above the chaos, the lies, and the treachery that once threatened to bury them is what makes their journey so remarkable, not simply their ability to weather the storm. This isn't just about getting even or exacting retribution. It's about seeing how profoundly the cosmos restores equilibrium with indisputable fairness. Those who disregarded you, who propagated lies, and who rejoiced over your failures now have to face a reality they never expected. The identical power that exposes their actual character and brings their defects to light is the same energy that they use to knock you down. Karma does more than just balance things out. It changes the story, transforming every criticism into a celebration of your tenacity and success. It is the best storyteller, and the most interesting protagonist is you, the one who was selected. The beauty of this process, however, is not just in your opponent's demise, but also in your own personal growth. You have developed resilience, insight, and a vision that no amount of negativity can skew as a result of every hardship. You now assert that your wins are not coincidental. They are the results of perseverance, planning, and a strong belief in your mission. At this point, humility turns into strength, quiet becomes indisputable evidence, and divine timing unveils its masterpiece. Thus, let them observe, let them converse, and let karma take its course. Because they have no idea what is going to happen. It's an example of how the cosmos rewards people who remain loyal.